If you want to build a predictable, scalable business, that's tough, right?
Yeah.
If you don't know if you bought 3 years ago and then the interest rates you got now, your numbers are not what you thought.
Right.
Or they're not going to be when you renew, right? So 30-year mortgages in the United States, super common. You can still go, like I mentioned, get an ARM mortgage for like a 5-year or 7-year term or 3-year term if you want. But nice long mortgages, make it predictable. That has two sides to it. You can inherit an American's mortgage by doing a sub 2. And guess what? You can get the interest rates from when they were good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many advantages that way. Like a lot more creative strategies work in the United States than they do in Canada. Just access to public records in the US. I can go find out who owns the house, how much they owe on the mortgage, multiple mailing addresses, multiple phone numbers. You can just get these products. They don't exist the same way in Canada.
Yeah, the data you can't, right? Too much.
No.
Yeah.
Even if you just look at realtor.com, it'll tell you what they sold the property for. Or Zillow in the US. Zillow in Canada doesn't show that information. It's private. What the last sale price was.
Yeah.
Right. So just, you basically have to be a mortgage broker in Canada in order to pull that information. So it's
crazy.
Not fair.
Welcome to another episode of the Smart Real Estate Coach podcast, your source for actionable real-life examples and advice to help you move to the next level of investing. Each week, we help you make a quantum leap in your business, your finances, and/or your life. We want to help you take back control, help you thrive during chaos, and lead you through the current crisis to a better tomorrow. For more resources, check out smartrealestatecoach.com and be sure to give us a rating and review on your favorite platform.
All right, Glenn, with that as a little backdrop, welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, thank you for having me, Chris. I had you on my show a couple times, so I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, all the way from Canada.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so let's do this. I kiddingly, but actually, it's accurate. In my intro 2 seconds ago, it said some of the Wicked Smart community members will call me and go, how do I invest even in another state, let alone another country? So I guess first, how did you land here, other than what I briefly said? And then let's talk about how that works protocol and mechanically, just to give them ideas. I know there's going to be nuggets here for them, no matter where they want to go.
Oh, yeah. We're going to fill this with nuggets. I guess the story is that I was investing in my backyard where I started, right? So that's how everybody starts. I think at least a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then, back in 2016, 2015, podcasting was, it wasn't in its infancy, but it wasn't what it is today. Right. So there was no podcast, at least that I was aware of, about real estate in Canada. So there was 3 or 4 big ones out of the US, and I just absorbed it because, I was doing the basic strategy back then. Buy a house, rent it out. Eventually it's worth a whole bunch more money and you sell it,
Very complex.
Yeah, very complex. So I was doing really simple stuff, and I wanted to do more creative stuff, right? So I wanted to, get into, well, we'll get into this, but wanted to do a lot more stuff. And where I was learning it was from these US podcasts. And after listening to enough episodes, eventually I was like, you know what? I don't think it's going to be that complicated, that much extra complication than, investing in my backyard. Maybe I should backtrack a little bit. I started investing because I live in Ontario, and I started investing in a property that was 2 hours from my house. So I went, you know what? I figured out how to hire a contractor to go, or even as a handyman to go fix stuff. I figured out it, and I was self-managing that. And I went, if I can do that 2 hours, what would be the difference about doing that in, anywhere, Florida, Alabama, Ohio, anywhere? Where I could, if I've figured this out, I could just figure this out anywhere else. So
2 hours the other way, right?
Yeah, either way, I'm not going. So I'm going to figure this out over the phone. So if you can figure that out, you could literally start doing this anywhere. And then you start realizing that there's a lot of different advantages from country to country, and, taxes, corporate structure, just everything is different.
Yeah, 100%. So you said you figure out how to hire people now. Let's talk about that, because that is the biggest, what do I do? Here's an example. We have a gentleman right now. He's in our High Six associate group. He was here last week for boot camp. He's moving to Jerusalem. And I said, don't worry about it. So he actually seems very comfortable with it, but talk about what you do now for that, and maybe some learning lessons along the way, because it wasn't, I'm sure, super simple day one.
No. The hardest one's the first one, right? And but it grows from there, right? So like right now, what it is whenever I'm picking a new market, because even in we're recording this early 2025, but
Yep.
in 2024, I set up 2 new teams and 2 new markets and did it all remotely. Didn't have to go visit anyone or do anything. But I think it just comes down to the same thing. You're like, you get on the phone, you talk to them, or Zoom. Actually, I prefer Zoom. I like to have a face conversation, get to know them a little bit better. But you go and it's the same team members you're picking out every time. Typically a title company, an attorney, possibly. You're going to have your contractors, your property managers, some sort of boots on the ground to check over it. So I'd like to have a separate person besides the contractor to look over the stuff. But anyway, you're just going to go through and interview them. I typically now like to start with a story, and even like the people who've taken my course, they like to leverage my story, because that's all you need is the idea is to get them excited to work with me, right? So I talk about like what I did in Ohio. Like I started off with one project, it worked out, and now I have like, I don't know, 60, 80 houses, right? In Ohio. So we just first I want to build excitement, and then I want to have a lot of leading questions. So what I'm trying to do is get specific answers, because you ask contractors generic answers, their questions, they're going to give you the generic answers.
Yeah.
And the most expensive thing to do is to switch contractors mid-project, switch property managers after a while. So what I'm trying to do is get them talking about situations that have happened. What happened and how do they solve it, and how are they going to keep this from happening again is ultimately what I'm trying to draw out of them. So just getting creative, like just plan these conversations ahead of time. And like, even if you're going, hey, I'm going to do my first property in, Massachusetts or something like that, you're like, maybe just go interview some property managers in California first, right? Just, you'll get better every time you talk to them. And then by the time you're actually talking to the people you actually want, you have a much better conversation. Other thing I have started to do everywhere is double my teams. So 2 property managers, 2 contractors, 2 everything. And I let them know that there's another team there.
Oh, on purpose, just for what? Accountability, competition, like health.
Yeah, I think it's the implication, if things don't go right, there is the possibility. And one of the problems I've had in cities is sometimes you want to grow, right? And you're like, hey, we're doing like 10 renovations at a time. I don't want to do 20, but they can't handle 20. And you start to step on their toes when you hire another team after you've built this relationship and everything else. So if you start like that, then they're just used to it. They know that you're splitting the deals. They know that they're probably bidding against somebody else on each of these projects. They just know that's how it works, right? And so it's not you're introducing somebody you feel they can't do it, because what I've had with other teams, and like my team in Kansas City, like, oh, we'll just hire more people. Don't get a new company and don't bring in, we'll hire more people. We'll hire more contractors. We'll hire everything. And you're just like, I don't know if your office has the manpower to pull this off. It's not necessarily all the, people doing the renovations, which is,
yes. Let me ask you this, and I guess this would apply, because I think when what came to mind when you said, oh, I'll hire someone, them telling you that, I'm thinking some people have the experience of the leadership team to do that, and others don't, and that would hurt you eventually, right? If they don't know how to scale their own business, right?
Yeah.
So there's that fine line there.
A lot of them don't. They think they do.
Yeah.
And even I always say that like property managers is a very scalable business. But it's only scalable to a point, right? Like there is a breaking point. They bring on too many units and they haven't hired any new people, and you try to call them, you can't get a hold of them. They're not answering calls from tenants. They're not doing their job just because they're completely overwhelmed, right? So there's a breaking point and a scalability point where they're going to have to scale or start to fail.
Yeah, 100%. So let me ask you, so the audience is clear. You buy all how and you exit how, or does it vary?
It varies. So I like to do, I know a lot about your business as well, and I like to do the same sort of things. So we buy from wholesalers. We do seller financing on the purchase. We do seller finance on the sale.
Love it.
We do lease options, sub-twos, contract for deed, depending on the state. I prefer lease options personally. And just like to have the flexibility. I like to have the contract, or I like to not have to do foreclosures. That's my ultimate thing. But a little bit of everything. We do buys, we do flips. We do a lot of single family, but we have bought. We have a 136 unit in Florida. We're closing on a 120 unit in Texas right now. So like we do a little bit of everything. We do the small apartments, we do the single family. We're doing a seller finance deal on a 120 unit.
So that's awesome. I get people say, "Oh, you can't do that." I say, well, "Why not? You can do it any asset class."
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, we try to do a little bit of everything. And I think what happens, it kind of goes into phases though. Like we're like, hey, we're gonna do a whole bunch of seller financing or oh, we're gonna do a whole bunch of just wholesale deals or purchasing from wholesales, or we kind of get in batch, or we get our mental mode. For the single family stuff, like right now we're in sell mode. But it changes. Like, we're planning on going back into buy mode in probably late February. But it's just I have so many properties I need to sell, so it's just time consuming. Even though I have VAs and everything,
Yeah.
mental space.
No, I agree. We sold a bunch since between COVID and now. So lead sources then, does that vary, or do you turn the spigot on and off as like, how do you do your lead gen?
So I know because I've read your books. I know, and I've had your son-in-law over at my conference, and
Yeah, I know.
So I know what you guys do, but I do it a little bit different, but similar. So I honestly hate picking up the phone and calling people.
A lot of people do.
Yeah. So a lot of times we deal with like wholesalers to get projects, right? But we do some direct stuff, but a lot of it comes from connections we've already made. Like I usually don't like to do like cold leads. Like if I'm picking up the phone, I want it to be like my property manager. They have something that that has a major renovation. The owner can't afford it. They have something. You're like, I already know what I'm going into.
I blame dogs too, right? Usually,
yeah. You can look up all the stuff. I know what they bought it for. I know what they sold it for, or what they want to sell it for from the property manager. Like I have what their mortgage amount is. I can put it all together and kind of go, hey, you know what? I don't want to inherit this as a sub two. Let's see if we can do a seller financing. Let's see what this makes sense for.
Okay, who wants to be the next apprentice? Pretty interesting, guys. We started this apprentice program back as a July 4th, 2024 promo. That's where it started. And it was so incredibly effective. We were just going to run it for the summer. It was so effective immediately. We kept it. It's in place now. And what is it? It allows you to get into the community, the Wicked Smart community, for less dollars than the QLS home study course sells for right now on our site. In fact, when you go to smartrealestatecoach.com/apprentice-pod, apprentice-pod, when you go there, you're going to see that as an apprentice, you're going to get over $13,000 worth of coaching, the possibility for you to touch base with us if you want to, 4 or 5 times a week, and it doesn't exist anywhere out there, frankly. That's why we did it. We did it for 2 reasons. One, no one is giving you the support out there. We keep hearing feedback, which is how this was born, that other educators are not giving support. They're just selling stuff. So it doesn't exist anywhere, and nowhere in the real estate education or coaching space. And we want to help you do one thing, deals. So we've wrapped the support mechanism around this. We've allowed you to get into a Slack community with the other associates who previously were protected in Slack, and now you get to jump in there and experience that for 12 weeks. You also get to come to the In the Trenches bootcamp, which is private. It's a chance to hang out with the family team and one of the coaches for 2.25 days in our conference room, roll up your sleeves, get calls done, get deals done. If you come with leads, you leave with deals. Absolutely incredible. I could go on and on. Go to the website right now. Check out more information about the apprentice, and I'm going to give you the In the Trenches bootcamp site because you don't have to become an apprentice. It just happens to be free with apprentice and associate. So 2 links I'm going to give you, super important. smartrealestatecoach.com/ITTB-pod. That's going to give you some information about the bootcamp. If you want to buy a ticket to the bootcamp, it's more expensive, but you can. Just to come check us out. About 1 or 2 people every time we run it do just that. Or become an apprentice, and it's for free. smartrealestatecoach.com/apprentice-pod.
No, I agree, because Zach, similar to you, who you just said you came up to, which I know is recent. Zach, when we have the boot camps here, Zach has done several trainings of that because he doesn't have time. It's not that he doesn't like it, he's good at it. He doesn't have time to pick up the phone. So he has the realtor, the wholesale relationships. And we did a training. I'm saying this for the Wicked Smart listeners to know. It's in what we call the Associate Resource Center. It's free. So if you're in our community, it's like a 45-minute training we did for a higher level. And then we said, everybody could benefit from this. But it's what Glen's referring to. It's getting the phone to ring to you. So when you call, you're already the authority. Somebody told you to call there. So that's a different can of worms.
Yeah, and you can like, and people go, "Wow, how are you even getting those leads?" Like sometimes it's just like, talk to the property manager. They don't want to lose that lead, right? They already have someone paying them, percentage of the rent every single month. They don't want to lose customers, so they already like if you're going to work with them again, they're going to want to it's be in their favor. But sometimes, depending on what your strategy is, just pay them. Just have like a finder's fee,
Yeah.
$100, and then they want to get something out of it because they're just going to lose them completely anyway.
So are you referring to, so the property manager themselves, they'll refer you deals that their sellers are dumping or for whatever reason?
Yeah, property managers, sometimes attorneys, sometimes contractors. They're working on other people's houses and someone didn't pay them. And they're like, I'm going to sue you. You're going to sue them. And then sometimes you're just like, okay, let me get on the phone with everybody. Let's see if we can figure out how much do you need? How much do you need? Maybe there's something we can just take this over, get you what you guys need, and I can take this whole thing and finish it off with somebody else.
Sweet. It's sweet.
Yeah.
So you're teaching this specifically, right, in Canada for people to say, hey, broaden your horizons and go over to the US, right?
Yeah. How to do this US stuff. Cause it's a lot of people like a lot of Canadians, there's a lot of rent control in Canada.
Yeah.
So it makes it difficult to do a lot of this stuff and evictions aren't easy. So yeah, it's just figuring out how the US works, how to set this all up, how to be compliant for taxes, how to your corporations to be compliant, because it's even if you listen to the US podcasts, some of the stuff, it's just slightly different, right? Like, a tip for an example, a lot of Americans will set up LLCs, but the problem with LLCs for Canadians is the way Canada Revenue looks at an LLC. So they look at it like a corporation, even though it's a flow-through entity and it's going to go to your personal taxes. So in the US, you'll pay personal taxes. In Canada, pay corporate taxes. You just pay double tax.
Yeah.
So you want to have, structures that line up, that they're going to be taxed corporately or personally. And that way there's tax credits between the two countries and you're just not going to double pay. But if you cross them, it doesn't work.
So, okay. So for the listener, if that nugget doesn't get you to say, well, I probably should talk to Glen if I want to do this, I don't know what would. So Glen, before I forget, because I'll get gabbing on that note, how can they reach you? Like website, social media, phone, whatever you want. Just share that with them.
GlenSutherland.com. That's probably the easiest. It links to my podcast. It links to all the stuff, right? Links to the coaching, links to everything. You can get to YouTube channel, all this stuff. Yeah.
Everything on GlenSutherland.com. That's streamlined.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice. So talk about how you help them. What kind of programs do you have that Canadians and others could benefit from? Because frankly, anyone in the US could benefit from your programs to do different states.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's, but you have your own program. Why would they probably go to your program? You do the same thing. But I do coaching. We teach like how to do everything as far as I can see. And whenever we have like a situation that I haven't seen or I don't have the answer to, we just build another video. So like we teach like the creative purchases, the creative sales, buying in the US, which is like, just how to analyze deals. That's nothing special because it's going to be fairly simple, but it's going to be going in. Sometimes just like some people just don't understand the mechanics of like a sub two, or I just had somebody today just like, hey, I'm trying to put less money down on a house. How can I do that? Should I do a double close? And I'm just like, oh, you guess you could, but I would probably set up ask for seller credit, right? To get on the purchase, right? So like you're overcomplicating this, but like sometimes it's just people ask questions. You add another video. We had a student this summer that was like, hey, my contractor's threatening to put contractor liens on the property because the money got audited. If you send from personal in Canada to personal in the US and it's a large chunk of money, there's a good chance that's going to get audited for fraud. Yeah. And that's what happened. And so they're like, he's going to put liens on the property. And it was like, you know what? I haven't done that in Indiana before. So let's talk to some contractors, talk to some attorneys, figure it out, make another video, right? So it's ever growing. And I think like, that's what it is. It's just part of it is my own learning. Like I've been doing this in the US since 2016. And, I haven't faced every situation, but I've faced a lot of them. So it's just constantly growing and constantly sharing how that all works and all the details of the Canadian part.
Love it. Well, what piece of your puzzle, Glen, am I not touching on? Because I want to make sure that if I'm the listener, I kind of get the whole piece. What am I not asking that we can hit?
Well, I don't know. We could talk about like double tax. You know what? Even like we talked on corporations before. If we just want to throw some more golden nuggets in,
Yeah.
if you're going to buy this as a Canadian, buy it in a corporation, buy it in even an LLC, a C corp, LP, buy it in something. If you don't, what the U.S. does is they charge you FERPTA tax. That's a 15% additional tax based on the sale price, not on the profit. So if you bought a property and then sold it the next day and you bought it at market value, you're upside down. You're gonna have to come to the like table to the title company to close this with money. So if you screwed this up, quit claim deed it before you sell it, right? It's just like little things sometimes to do that, right? Financing, it's typically Canadians, we get not quite as good of rates as Americans. So I went through, got my visa for the US, got my social security number. But if you don't have that stuff, typically you're going to pay, 5%, you get 5% lower leverage and a half a percentage in more expensive for your interest rate, even if you have a good credit score and all that.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of the details of figuring that out, figuring out how to build your credit from a different country, just figuring out even how to get a bank account, because I don't know with your experience, but even if you're living in the United States, you're an American, a lot of times you're going to go into the bank to set up your bank account. But like, say you want to start buying in, I don't know, Arizona, wherever you want to buy, it doesn't matter. You may not want to go there to set up a bank account, right? Like sometimes it's just, I want to build a completely remote business, but just there's all kinds of the little details on how to do all these things, right?
So can they, if someone's listening, can they partner with you? Do you do that type of program or no, not yet?
No, we do like joint ventures. We do private money as well.
Like if they don't want to do all those hoops, they go, I get it, but can I just partner with you? I'm sure you have a way to do that, right?
Yeah. So this is the thing. I do do joint ventures and other things with people, like, share in the profit, grow something bigger. But in all honesty, what I'm typically it's a lot easier if you just work with your own students because they understand what you're doing. They've seen the system, they've seen the sheets. It's a lot less questions. So if I'm going to be completely honest, in 2023 and 2024 and 2025, basically just working with the students. Some students will just do it and they'll run and they'll just go and take over the world. And some will be just so scared to take the first step. And those are the ones to partner with. You're like, look, you spent the money on the course. You want to do this. You see how I work. Let's just continue with that.
I agree.
And usually strangers, I would say, let's just participate in a syndication.
Yeah. There's a comfort level, right? You get to know them. It's like with the boot camp people were here last week. I said, look, different from a room of 300 people. I got to know you here. There's 10 people in the conference room, so there's a different relationship already.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Glen, so glensutherland.com. Anything else that you want to share for a nugget or tip? You threw a bunch of good ones. There's no question that state to state works with what you do and everything else fits. Awesome.
Yeah, maybe I'll throw out a couple reasons why you wanted to make this jump, why you want to switch to the US. So in Canada, we typically have 25-year mortgages, but they're more similar to an ARM mortgage in the United States.
Like a commercial.
So they renew every 5 years,
yeah.
Right? So, and even if you get a fixed rate, it's still 5 years. That's really all you have. And that's not really, if you want to build a predictable, scalable business, that's tough, right?
Yeah.
If you don't know if you bought 3 years ago and then the interest rates you got now, you're in your numbers are not what you thought, or they're not going to be when you renew, right? So 30-year mortgages in the United States, super common. You can still go, like I mentioned, get an ARM mortgage for like a 5-year or 7-year term or 3-year term if you want. But nice long mortgages, make it predictable. That has two sides to it. You can inherit an American's mortgage by doing a sub 2. And guess what? You can get the interest rates from when they were good.
Yeah.
So there's so many advantages that way. Like a lot more creative strategies work in the United States than they do in Canada. Just access to public records. In the US, I can go find out who owns the house, how much they owe on the mortgage, multiple mailing addresses, multiple phone numbers. You can just get these products. They don't exist the same way in Canada.
Yeah, the data you can't, right? Too much.
No.
Yeah.
Even if you just look at realtor.com, it'll tell you what they sold the property for. Or Zillow in the US. Zillow in Canada doesn't show that information. It's private. What the last sale price was.
Yeah.
Right. So just, you basically have to be a mortgage broker in Canada in order to pull that information. So it's
crazy.
not fair.
Yeah. Well, it's not crazy because I'm psyched that you get to do business here
Yeah.
and we're having a chat. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Glenn, super cool to have you on. I don't know if you and Zach have more plans to have him up there to speak, but certainly you're always invited as a VIP to our stuff too. We have the next big one in September, actually October in Boston. So I'd love to have you as a guest. And I can't wait to swap shows again with you and have an outstanding week and quarter ahead of you.
That sounds great. Thanks.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey guys, are you simply sick of juggling a dozen different software tools for your real estate business? I know I was, and I know I'm not a tech person, so it was frustrating. A subscription for this, you got a subscription for that, and they don't even work together out of the box. That's very frustrating, especially in the real estate world where your best time spent is going to be out in the field or on the phone with sellers. And now you're stuck hiring a tech guru just to make all that sync up. So let's ditch the chaos and let REI Black Book handle everything. Automate your lead follow-up, track every deal, analyze things quickly for you, make offers all on one platform. In fact, with the Wicked Smart platform, we now have access, if you're in the Wicked Smart community, to all the other associates' properties. Can you imagine that? So you're brand new in the business perhaps, and your seller looks on your website and sees 20, 30, 40 properties, instant credibility. So you're going to get everything on REI Black Book from our custom workflows for lead generation all the way to closing. It has it covered. Try it today for just $1, guys. Visit smartrealestatecoach.com/REIBB-DD. smartrealestatecoach.com/REIB as in boy, B as in boy, hyphen, D as in dog, D as in dog.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Real Estate Coach podcast. If you're ready to invest in yourself and take your investing to the next level, check out our 90-day Jumpstart program by going to smartrealestatecoach.com/jump. That's smartrealestatecoach.com/jump, because now is the time to act boldly in this unprecedented market shift.